All right, let's see if I can do anything to this as if I were writing it to try and focus on these three things with prose. Or Othis decided not to change his robes before entering the Crusaders' Cathedral. He was the leader of a group of refugees from an insane domain. He thought if he looked the part, it might help sway the Crusaders' cause. That's actually kind of telly, but it's okay. We start off in someone's viewpoint, right? We know whose viewpoint we are. Well done for mentioning it in the first sentence. Let's see. As he strode toward the Crusader's throne, he silently noted he was having his intended effect. Okay, this one is yeah, that's okay too. Back to weighing surprise. Okay, so he's wearing blood-stained robes. I was ran the door and watched with mouths agape as the outer courtyard filled with immigrants. The line of refugees still stretched all the way to the border. All right, so let's say we wanted to knock up the concrete level of this a bit. Now, one thing you're going to have to keep in mind is when you make things more concrete, you're generally adding words, okay? Any place you can make something one more of these things without adding a word, you generally want to do it. So let's look right here. For instance, here's an example of what I was talking about before. Othis knew we needed to strike the perfect balance between confident and desperate. Now, a lot of people would say, cut that. The reason being that this was what I was just talking about a little bit ago. You'll have to decide, do you want to be using those tags for when someone's thinking something or observing something? Harriet, the editor on the Wheel of Time, always cut when I did that. Because we're in the character's viewpoint, you've already established it in the first paragraph, so we don't need the Othis knew. Awed and overwhelmed, had no part in his planned demeanor, so despite the amazing opulence of surroundings, he kept his eyes fixed forward. If you were trying to make this more immediate, this is kind of a very, this is an abstract sentence. What does this even mean? Odd and overwhelmed, had no part of his plan. I'm having trouble figuring out what that even means. And it's drawing us away from what's happening, right? And so what I would say here is you want to go right into the cathedral, right here, and I would cut that one. Because, yes, that's in viewpoint, but it's this weird abstraction we want to keep in head. Now, what we want to do right here, let's look at this one. How can we make this more in his viewpoint? Do you have any suggestions? Look at this sentence right here. This is a sentence that, it's a nice description. Cathedral's immense, wide enough the edges of the walls were only visible through the fog, and long enough you could only see about halfway down it.
Have him mentally compared to his former Indolmus Cathedral. He's a high priest somewhere else, he can compare and contrast.
There you go. That would be a wonderful way. What else could we do? What could we do to put this more in viewpoint? Could he be dismissive? Or could he be like, wow, this one's so much better than mine? Or, does this make sense? What do you got?
Or he could have his eyes catch a particular thing that seems to draw his attention.
Right.
And concentrate on describing that in his point.
That's where we're going with the concrete thing. Like the cathedral was immense, is okay. This one is much better. You could only see the, it was long enough you could only see about halfway down it. See, that's a concrete sensory experience. The cathedral was immense, means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Let me talk about something here with this concrete. With the concrete, we do something. Sorry if I can't see this. I just drew a triangle. We do something called the pyramid of abstraction. Which the idea of the pyramid of abstraction is you use a lot of concrete language to earn your abstract language. Abstract language is language that everyone who reads the book is going to think of something different. So, for instance, a dog. Is a dog concrete or abstract? Abstract. A dog is very abstract. You've listened to my lectures. I explained it. A dog is way up here because a dog, everyone thinks of a different dog. An immense cathedral is very different. It's probably right about here.
So build the foundation first.
So if you want to pull it down, if you want to, you need to make these decisions. I'm not telling you. I'm saying if you want to pull it down, instead of describing the cathedral as an immense cathedral, you say, he strode past stained glass windows, depicting this thing from the world. his old Adama that he loved so much. Oh man, it was so hard to see this. There was in all these array of colors that shined across him as he strode through. That's an image, right? That shows us grand cathedral. If you want to say, if you want to highlight something more concrete, yes, you can only see halfway down. You can say torches lined it and got smaller and smaller until the distant ones were just pinpricks. That's even a little more concrete than what you did. But you can see each one I'm doing is adding more words. Almost always pulling down on the pyramid of abstraction adds more words. So you try to compensate that by cutting out vagaries like this that don't really tell you anything, so that you can then get rid of vague terms and you can use those words right here to make the cathedral was immense into something of a powerful image that we are imagining, and we're there with the character, and it has something about his emotions tied to it, so that as we're going along, yeah. And I see you're actually doing this a little bit more down here. But again, this one is less vague than this one, if you see that. And so you may want to say, you may want to, try and cut down. Stained glass windows lend so much light as bright as day. He passed the stained glass window and the light shone in his eyes, almost blinding him, or the sun, something like that, that's more in him, rather than this, which is kind of just a tell. Now the thing about this is, once again, guys, sometimes you just want to use this. I can't tell you when to use them and when not to. I can tell you what to do if you want your language to be more concrete and more in character. But sometimes, if you do this, you will end up with these enormous paragraphs and these enormous pages that you don't want to have because you want to move on to the action. So your job as writers is to decide when you're going to be doing things like this and when you're going to be transitioning into more character-driven moments and when you're going to go into the action, okay? I don't know how much time we have to do more, but this is the idea. I would like to do this with more of your writing in the future if some of you are brave enough, as Brennan was, to do this. So let's just go here. Is there a word for half ran, half walked?
Jogged?
That's what we mean by being more precise. And by the way, most of these things are not things I do in first draft. This is all stuff I do in second draft.
Well, I asked you about that earlier. So.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. What I'm doing here is if I were looking back at this. So this is what we mean by being more precise. If you can use a word that is a specific word that means 4 words that you put in it, you want to try and use it. Jogged is probably, or trotted. You may want the half run, half walked, but see here what we're talking about? A lot of times the better writing is going to be the single word that does everything that you want. So let's see, continuing. Is there a continuing to walk forward that we could do?
Proceeding.
Yes, proceeding past the man, or striding past the man. If you striding past the man there.
You did the last paragraph.
Oh, you do striding already, so yeah,
So
proceeding. Yeah, proceeding. See, there you go, you've got a precise word that has taken the place of 4 words. So what you're doing here is you're trying to make this more precise and concrete. So the places where you really want to pull out a description and just clobber us in the face with this awesome 2 or 3 sentence, not 2 or 3 paragraph, but 2 or 3 sentence paragraph of something just evocative of emotion and power, you have the space for it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Earlier on, when I was talking to you, you said it was a good exercise to cut out about 1/3 of the words from your initial draft. Is this the way that you're doing it?
This is the way I'm doing it. It's exactly how I'm doing it.
Wonderful.
And I cut 15%. A third is a bit much for most people. I cut 15%, and I will often do as an exercise, I'll go like this. Say, okay, that is 463 words. Let's cut 60 of them. And I will just go through and I will work that page until I've cut out 60 words. And one of the things I'll be looking for are places where I repeat myself. And we do this a lot. You did it a little bit up here with this one. Just a little bit here, where you describe the light and then you describe the light better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We do that a lot. We do like the topic sentence, which is a good idea, but then slightly more descriptive topic sentence, and then really good description.
So this is curiosity. Way of Kings was 15% shorter than what it was.
Yes, it was. I kept 15% from basically everything. So yeah. Okay, here's a quick one for you guys. Be wary of said bookisms. Because I just talked about using the more precise word, a lot of people jump to the assumption that using said bookisms, which maintained is a more precise word than said. This is kind of usually considered an exception to the rule, where in the dialogue you don't want the attention to be on the tag, you want it to be on the dialogue itself. And so because of that, you want to try and evoke these things in the dialogue and just use said, and stay away from using the more precise terms there, and try and get it across here. The reason for that being is that most people will skip these, and so they'll lose it if you put it here.
Okay.
And if you put the said bookism there and put one that's really kind of weird, it'll draw their eyes and they'll focus on that instead of what was actually said. And so that's a weird inconsistency with this right here. When people may have told you before, just use said, the reason for it is that we want your focus to be on that. And I think that he just maintains it already by what he says. Another big point of advice is to try and move the tags as close to the front as possible. This is a clarity issue. We want to know who's speaking as soon as possible. Tags are invisible, but we'll snap who said it. And so putting something at the end of a sentence is much worse than working it in at the very first place that it's reasonable to put it in. So these are just little prose things that we can do, that we can try and push the language to be more precise, to use the right words. I don't see a lot of passive voice in here, so the third one is not a problem for you. We'll have to find somebody else who's using the passive voice that we can just destroy it. But yeah, all right. I could probably spend more time on this. This is actually pretty good. Your prose is solid. It reads like a first draft that I would do. So yeah. This isn't terrible. But you know what? This is what I do for everything. Is I would go through and I'd be like, do I need this sentence? Do I need this sentence? What's a word that would replace this? So there you go.
Thank you.
We'll try to do some more of that in future weeks. I wish I had a little more time for it, but I do want to get to writing groups, and I'm sorry I was late. But I did get a drive up to the little stall that they let you past if you're a teacher, in my car service with the tinted windows, that pulls up and puts the window down and says, "Mr. Sanderson would like to proceed." That was pretty cool. They probably thought I was a general authority for a minute.